Joining us now here on In the Circle on D1 Softball, of course, she is coming off a senior year of legendary proportion at Oklahoma State, where she led them to the Women's College World Series appearance, winning Big 12 Pitcher of the Year, top 3 National Player finalist for Player of the Year. Now, beginning as a rookie on Athletes Unlimited, I speak of Lexi Kilfoyl back with us here on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Staying nice and busy, getting to know Rosemont, Illinois a little bit, and meeting a bunch of new faces. So I've been having a good time.
Well, let's start about with that. Once your Oklahoma State career ended, you obviously had a lot to think about what you wanted to do. When did Athletes Unlimited get in the picture? Was that something you always thought about? Obviously, the season, this is their 5th season now. Is that it was something you were thinking about during the season? Take us through this process that's led you to this point.
So I kind of always heard of Athletes Unlimited, but I think I first really started hearing about it when Rachel Becker got drafted. And so after she got drafted, she obviously took the opportunity because she grew up here in Chicago. And I followed her a little bit, and obviously my senior year came and I was thinking like plans as far as like afterwards, and that's when I kind of like thought to myself like if I could play softball every day in college, like why the heck wouldn't I do it for a job? So obviously like the opportunity came to me when I was drafted, and so that was really exciting to know that they had wanted me. And so they had reached out after the last game of the College World Series and got to talking. They kind of like talked through how AU worked, how all that works, and I honestly it was a no-brainer for me. And I was like 6 weeks in Illinois playing softball. I was like, I'd be stupid not to try. So here I am. Yeah.
In an area that you're somewhat familiar with, at least family wise, where it's not too bad. Rosemont, very famous, very beautiful softball stadium facilities, very appealing.
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, we're right outside of O'Hare Airport. So flying or growing up, I obviously flew a lot into this airport because I have family all over the place. I have my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side. They live about 20 minutes south of here. So very a little bit familiar with the area. So yeah, the facilities here are absolutely amazing. Like playing on the turf field and just everything's so well groomed and it's absolutely beautiful. I don't even know how many the stadium seats, but I'm excited to see like how many it actually does seat because it feels a little bit bigger than Cowgirl Stadium. So I'll find out this weekend.
What's it been like getting to know the players? It's unique, obviously, with the concept because, one week you're going to be playing with this player, next week you might be against them. So it's kind of a fluid situation. What's that been like getting to know them and having the scrimmages and so forth?
Yeah, it's been good. I feel like you get to learn a little bit more people like as you go. So like the first day I was meeting a bunch of the rookies because we have like orientation and all that kind of stuff. And so we actually had we had like rehearsal scrimmages that we did. So I got to meet another like 13 of those girls, get to know them. And I've always like known of the girls and like heard of them, but I'm truly like getting to know like why they are who they are, like how good of softball players they are. So it's been quite a process. A lot of name learning for sure. And so this week I'm on Sid Romero's team. We're Team Purple, and so I've been there's 15 of us. So gotten to know those girls, get to know those catchers a lot, and then obviously starting to like look at the hitters that we're going to face and such.
I'm curious. I guess this sounds like a simplistic question, but how are you feeling? Because you played a college season. I believe you were on Team USA when you're up in Japan for the All Star Series, and now you're playing here at Athletes Unlimited. I guess how are you feeling? That's a lot of softball.
Yes. Honestly, I think I just like had this realization one day. I was like, I've been playing softball my whole life, and honestly, like as a job, I think I could do it as long as my body will allow me to. And so it's I think with that being a full-time job, you kind of learn to take the other things seriously. And actually, like I feel like I have more time on my hands now that I'm not in any classes right now, don't have any other obligations. So it's been good to like focus on the little things and like really like focus on like my craft and all the treatment room stuff, training room, all that kind of stuff. So my body's feeling honestly really good. I've been I've been taking time off a little bit here and there just to rest the arm because a break is always good. But I feel really good going into this first week. My body feels amazing, and I'm super excited.
Was there any players that you seeked advice that have played Athletes Unlimited as far as strategic and how this all works? Was there anybody you leaned on when you got arrived? I mean, what or was it? Did you know people? Going into it like with information. How did you play that out?
Yeah, so Carrie Eberly, my pitching coach, obviously, she played Athletes Unlimited for, I believe it was 2 or 3 years. And so her and I had some conversations when I was back in Stillwater just to prep me a little bit and help me. And she said, like, always reach out if you need absolutely anything. But I definitely, like, all the veterans here, they're so amazing at like reaching out and helping and just asking us to go do things with them. And even like every single day before we practice together, we all get to know each other somehow. There's like we talk about a question or like one of the first day it was like what advice would you give like the rookies, and so they've all been so supportive and just really helping us all because I mean they were in our shoes once too, and it's not always easy being the young girls and coming in knowing sometimes nobody. So they've all been absolutely amazing at helping all of us rookies.
And I know one of the cool things with Athletes Unlimited, talking to all the players there in the past, is that obviously you're playing for a charity, you're playing for a cause in many cases, and they enjoy that. They're taken care of very well. Do you have a cause that you're playing for as a rookie there? How's that from your standpoint?
Yeah, so I'm playing this year for Special Olympics USA. And so a little backstory, I in high school I volunteered for a league called Buddy Baseball, and it's a non-competitive league in Tampa, Florida for people with uh special needs. So essentially there was a team of like 24 of us, and each of us would was we were buddies with one of the players, and we helped them essentially play baseball. And so the whole special needs thing, that it's really near and dear to my heart because I truly believe that like anyone should be able to enjoy softball no matter who you are, no matter if you have a disability or not. So Special Olympics was it was a no-brainer in my mind. And so yeah, I'm playing for Special Olympics this season, and I'm super excited to I've been talking with some of their people and just learning about different ways that I could get involved with them. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. Well done. Great to hear that, and it's a great cause indeed.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to reflect on your Oklahoma State career now that you've been away from it a little bit since obviously the World Series appearance in June, especially this year where you took it to a different level individually and as a team, getting there back to the World Series when some people doubted this team, quite honestly, before this season. So I would imagine from that standpoint, it's been a special year in that regard. Have you had time to reflect on it?
Definitely, yeah. I think I'll still reflect on it for as long as I can remember. But I would say the first month was a little hard afterwards. It was a little wrenching, like watching all the other people play, like thinking like that could have been our team. But I think there's so many positives to look back at, and I'm starting to see those positives now that I've kind of found a new gig like with Athletes Unlimited. So it's honestly it was hard, but I'm doing a lot better now, and it's there's so much that I learned from, and there's so much that like I'm super proud of, like especially as our team, like going into my fifth year, like some of us we literally were like we don't know how this year is going to go. Like it could go either really good, really bad, just with coaching changes and like player changes, losing almost our entire lineup. So there's a lot of good to look back at, and I'm honestly super excited to see like the future of Oklahoma State because the team we had this year was so young. There were so many young girls, so many young faces that played such important roles. So I'm excited to see where the future leads for the Cowgirls.
Now, we spoke before the season. I think it was back in January. And you said one of your goals was to win Big 12 Pitcher of the Year. I don't know if you remember saying that. Well, you did that and then some,
Yeah.
winning Big 12 Pitcher of the Year, and then ended up being a finalist for top three Player of the Year. Did you ever imagine you'd be a top three Player of the Year finalist? First of all, let's start with that.
Honestly, not at all. Like, I knew I had good aspirations for myself, but I didn't think it was top three worthy. So that was honestly a huge honor. When the announcement came out, I was like, wait, what? Like, honestly didn't even think my stats were that good. I didn't think, I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, I guess this is pretty legit, but yeah, especially like setting goals, like being Big 12 pitcher of the year. I think that that really put like my mind to something. And so at the end of the day, the goal was a national championship, and to be a national champion, you have to be one of the best pitchers. Like you have to be an amazing pitcher. And so obviously Big 12 pitcher of the year came alongside my career. But at the end of the day, like doing it for your team, and I couldn't do it without my team, obviously. Like the wins, I had such an amazing win record because my team can hit the crap out of the ball and they could defend me. And so obviously I don't see that as an individual award. I think it has a lot to do with my team, especially my defense. Like being a drop ball girl, I can't do it without my defense. Like I'm literally 99% drop like ground balls in the infield. So couldn't do it without them.
That drop ball is pretty nasty. I mean, Florida Tim Walton, head coach, he said he did nightmares trying to hit you. And for both times that you played him there, do you remember where you were when you found out that you won Pitcher of the Year?
I was actually in my advisor's office because we were having some trouble with my classes, and I was sitting there talking to her, and I got a notification on my watch, and I looked at my watch, and it was a picture of me waving, and I just saw the Big 12 logo, and I was like, huh? And I ended up opening it on my phone. I was like, oh my gosh, like Big 12 pitcher of the year. Like it was the last week of school. We were kind of figuring out like my credits and stuff. So it was one of those like I don't like to share a lot of my like information, like so it was kind of it just made me look down, made me smile, like thinking like how great of a year it's been, and like all the hard work that went into it. So it was a really neat it was a really neat situation how I found out. But yeah.
Do they give you like a trophy? What is it? Like what do they give you? A certificate? Like I'm always fascinated by that. Like when you get an award like that.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I think I did get some certificates in
Okay.
my locker.
Yeah.
So, but I would assume there would be a trophy. They
There
probably
might be,
just
or it might be a surprise. So maybe I'm playing something. I don't know because I know when you're an All-American, they send you eventually like a plaque, which
yes,
is
yeah,
pretty cool. So you're probably gonna get something. So maybe I shouldn't talk more about it,
yeah,
except for the fact I'm going to read you some names that you're joined by being Big 12 Pitcher of the Year. Kat Osterman, Amanda Scarborough, Paige Parker, the Jordy Balls, Whitney Kane. These are the names now you will be forever connected with as pitchers that won Big 12 Pitcher of the Year award. When I say that, what comes to your mind? That you're going to be mentioned in the same list as people like Kat Osterman.
yeah. Obviously, that's a huge honor. Like such big names, and it's just crazy to think that like some of those girls are Olympians too. And at the end of the day, like I think that's one of my next goals is obviously the LA 2028 games. And so I think that's just it's more of a confirmation to myself. Like I have what it takes. If I had what it took to become Big 12 Pitcher of the Year, I can achieve literally anything else that I could put my mind to. So kind of gives me that confirmation to keep working hard, and if you keep working hard, like those goals are obtainable for sure.
You mentioned about the uncertainty about this past year because you were a young team. You lost a lot of great talent. And I remember Kenny Gajewski mentioning that. I'll never forget having Kenny before, coach as well as anybody. Like he was pretty upfront. Like I don't know how good we're gonna be. We're still figuring this out. I don't know. You know how he is. But he mentioned something to me back then, and he's mentioned it since. I think he even mentioned it in the World Series press conferences. How he talked to you about being a leader of this team, stepping in that leadership role, that being that leader and vocal leader. Do you remember that what he was talking about there, and about you stepping into that role that maybe you weren't necessarily comfortable with from that standpoint? What take us through that because he said that was a big turning point.
Yeah, I still like remember to this day. I think I was in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot back home. But yeah, so we kind of had that conversation, and it wasn't an easy conversation because he knew my personality and I knew my personality. I'm very shy, like I have a hard time speaking up, especially in like large groups. And that's just how I've always been. And that's one of those things that I was a turning page. Is I was like, I have so much, and he even said it too. He's like, you have so much influence on this team. You have 4 years of college ball under your belt. You have so much experience on and off the field. Like, I need you to step up and be a leader for this team. And so it definitely came with a little bit of a challenge because speaking up, obviously, not my greatest suit, but the coaches are amazing at helping us with that. They always ask us like, how can we help you become like a better leader? Do we need to set you up with like a leading coach, that kind of stuff? And so they were alongside me the whole time, like helping me out. And so I think at the end of the day, we had a great group of leaders, all of us seniors. I think that's what's so special about being on a team is everyone's so completely different and we all bring different aspects from all kinds of leadership. So like obviously I try to step out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I think I strive the best in like the behind the scenes work, like checking on the girls, like making sure everyone's okay. Whereas like Scotty and Caroline and Ivy and Jill, maybe they're the more vocal ones. So I think all five of us brought something different to the table. And I think it obviously worked out amazingly. So we obviously had to step out of our comfort zones, but we could also stay within ourselves and really embrace like who we are and how we are as a leader.
How much has your parents made a difference in helping you too? Because I got to hang out with your mom in Clearwater when you were playing at ESPN Clearwater tournament, second week of the year, and she's right there through thick and thin. You know, you had your ups and downs that weekend. I would imagine that family support, and I know they travel as much as they can to see you everywhere. I would imagine that has helped you not just this year in that step into that leadership role, but just throughout your career.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two that raised me, and those two know me the best. So they've always been a call away, and I try and get my calls with them every week. But even just if in any situation, if I needed advice or I needed like guidance in anything, I knew I could call them and they would be right there wherever they needed to be. And over time, like they've been my greatest supporters ever since day one. Like they've always their main thing was letting us kids, me and my siblings, like chase out our dreams. And they would have done, and they did do literally everything possible to make that happen for us. And so, no matter like the outcome of the game, if it was good or bad, like they've always been so supportive and they've learned to not be like as harsh. Like my dad, like he's really like learned to like settle down a little bit and he's been more like a comfort after, especially after like a loss. Like he would come up to me, just give me the biggest hug and be like, it's okay, like it's just one game, learn from it, move on. Like he's been like such like a comfort. And same with my mom. My mom is like she's always gonna hype me up and like tell me like go get him, like you're the best pitcher out there. So they both they bring such great qualities to my life, and like at the end of the day they know me the best, so they will always be my go-to people whenever I need absolutely anything.
I can confirm on your mom's side. I can hear her very well sitting
Yeah.
next during a game from that standpoint. How are you a different pitcher today than you were when you first got to Oklahoma State or even got into college softball? Obviously, we know track record. Everybody knows you started at Alabama, moved on to Oklahoma State. How are you different pitcher today than you were when you first stepped into Stillwater? Maybe how are you a different person?
I would say I'm definitely more like, especially on the mound, I'm a lot more chill and laid back and just more confident in myself. I think going out there after playing like playing in fear, playing injured, like that's one of those things I really like took for granted is like this is a game that we're supposed to be having fun doing. And it was one of like the promises I kind of made to myself and my parents told me over and over. They're like, go out there and just have fun. Like be you. Like who gives a shit what anyone else thinks? Like just go be you out there. And I went out there and I did that and I have a mouth like a sailor. So if if I wanted to cuss, I was cussing. If a ground ball comes to me, like I'm kind of the person that'll be like "Ah," and like scream when it comes to me. So that like just little stuff like that, I think is where I really like formed. It helped form into like who I am, and it gave me the confidence, whether it was on and off the field, to like truly embrace who I am and not be ashamed of how I am, essentially.
Do you have a favorite game moment from your time at Oklahoma State? Was there a turning point there or something that you're like, hey, when I think back to my career, I really smile at that game or maybe that moment in particular?
Um, I'd really have to sit and think on that one because there's a lot of moments that I really that I can look back on. Let me think. Oh
I mean, I
gosh.
can tell you what a lot of Oklahoma State fans sent me, which was when you won in Norman. You won the series in Norman. You all went there and won the series this past year. With the first time that Oklahoma State has done that in decades.
Hmm.
A lot of Oklahoma State fans like messaged us and everything saying that that moment made you like a legend. Like you're a legend now in Stillwater.
Yeah, I would say that that's definitely up there. I remember when we went to OU when we practiced there the first night. I remember walking into the stadium and just like I had the biggest smile on my face because of like how obviously how beautiful the stadium was and like how far like softball has come that we get to play in a stadium this massive. And so going into that weekend, I think people didn't really have great expectations for us, but like in my gut, I had such a great feeling. I was like the vibes are good on the team right now. Like some like this is like I have a really good feeling about this weekend, and obviously winning that series was super memorable, especially like running out to our parents in right field because they're all the way in right field. Just running out to them and like sharing that moment with them was super special, and just doing it in front of such an amazing crowd too. Like going into another stadium, especially OU Stadium, their brand new stadium, going into a crowd that massive, it can be intimidating, especially for our young team. And so I think we just embraced every single moment of that and like took it all in, like had a blast. And when we play that kind of ball, when we're having fun and just doing what we know how to do, like we came out on top. And so I think that was definitely a special moment for sure.
Out. I mean, a lot of fans too. The Texas series win at home, where you were magnificent. I think that was a big another turning point. I'm sure there's a couple. I mean, there's a couple right off the bat for you that fans think there. I know it didn't end like you would have liked at the World Series, but do you take pride in the fact that you got there when a lot of people didn't think you would get there, like in February? A lot of people weren't picking Oklahoma. We talked about the reasons why. Is there a satisfaction there you got there and you helped the young players learn how to get there? Now they can pass that along.
Oh, definitely for sure. I would say like getting there is obviously the first step to a national championship. So like when we beat Arizona in 2 games and like it was such an amazing series, and just having that feeling of like okay, like we've made it now, like now is when like the real game starts. So there was some satisfaction, especially being the 5th year in a row for Oklahoma State. That's obviously one of the biggest reasons why I chose Oklahoma State is because they were one of those contenders that made it year after year to the World Series, and that's where everyone wants to finish their career. So being able to say that I competed at the College World Series the last 2 years of my career, that's obviously where I wanted to end my career, and I was able to do that. So yeah.
Well, now the experts, the beauty of this, you were so good that now come February, the questions they're going to ask Coach Gajewski and everybody at Oklahoma State is, well, who replaces Lexi Kilfoyl in the circle? Who's going to take over? Obviously, they've added a couple of transfers in Ruby Malin and Riley Crandall. They have some returners coming back. What advice would you give the Oklahoma State pitchers that are coming back and the ones that are joining as far as that? Because you've been in those shoes of being have to hear about, well, who's going to take over for so-and-so here in the circle. Now they're going to ask, who takes over for you? What advice would you give?
I would say my biggest piece of advice would be just to drown out the outside sources as much as possible. So obviously social media is like that's what everyone's on social media these days. Like they're on their phone 8 hours a day, and people are tweeting and people are commenting on Instagram. And that was one of those things that I like kind of told myself. I was never a big social media girl, and I I'm not one to go looking for comments. So I think staying away from the social media and like going and digging as much as possible kind of really helped me, because or like going and reading news articles, like that just wasn't my thing, and I think that helped me keep like a steady head on my shoulders. It just being almost clueless to a bunch of things. And so that's obviously how I was wired, and just didn't listen to the outside sources and just stayed true to myself, and obviously tried to help the younger girls that were going to fill my shoes someday. So, and I hope to continue to kind of give them advice and always be a shoulder that someone that they can call, a shoulder to lean on, like if they need absolutely anything, whether it's pitching advice, life advice, literally anything.
What is the key to transitioning to Oklahoma State as a transfer? Like, Riley Crandall's going to do, like Ruby's going to do, some of the other players they've added there. You were obviously you know that experience very well. What's the key to having a smooth transition?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Obviously, like the coaches made it super easy. They're obviously Oklahoma State is known for having such amazing transfers, and so they know how to deal with that. And Coach G is really amazing about the team chemistry part and getting to know every single one of your teammates. So that was something I kind of took pride in, and I made like a promise. I was like, if anyone is doing anything on the team, like I'm not gonna say no. So, especially that fall going in, knowing absolutely nobody besides Megan Bloodworth and Michaela Wark, I was like, I'm going to do literally everything I can, no matter who it is, no matter if it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to be uncomfortable in those situations. And because at the end of the day, like, forming a bond with those girls is what's most important, because if you can bond with them off the field, your bond on the field and all the like memories and the fun, like it comes naturally on the field. So I would tell them to do literally absolutely everything with your teammates, like as much as you can. Like at the end of the day, like sleep when you're dead, go get ice cream at 12 p.m. like or 12 a.m. Who cares? That kind of stuff. But and not be afraid to like lean on other girls. I think like me and Megan, we got really close obviously that first year because we lived together, and we had a lot of history at Alabama together. So just having amazing teammates and like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is what I would tell those girls.
We've touched on it earlier. You've always been a part of Team USA. I think for a few years now, right? Like, what was the first year you wore the red, white, and blue?
2017. So a while ago.
Was that the junior national team?
Yes.
That
So
was the
yeah,
one in
that was my
Clearwater, right?
yes, that was my first time on the junior national team, and then I was on the junior national team again in 2019.
So 2017, that was the Clearwater one, if I'm not mistaken, where you won the gold against Japan, and then the big monsoon came at Eddie C. Moore Stadium. Everybody ran for their lives
Yes.
there. I mean, what's it like wearing those colors? 2019, you won the walk-off against Japan in dramatic fashion against in up in California. I think Coach Ball Malone, I remember that because she was the pitching coach and really raved about you coming back from that. What do you remember of those experiences that you've had? You recently, like this year, was in Japan for the All Star Series. What that is experience like being wearing the USA and playing competing internationally?
Yeah, that experience is always it's such an honor, and obviously it's so much fun getting to compete at the like highest of all levels. So obviously like playing on those 2017 and 2019 teams, I met so many amazing athletes, and being one of the younger girls on the team, it was just awesome to look up to these girls that have been doing such amazing things in the college world and like at the Olympic level and the USA level. So I just look back and I remember like all those familiar faces and just competing and having a blast playing on literally one of the best teams that I've ever played on. And it's one of those experiences that I'll get like I want to tell my kids about one day, and I'll show them the pictures and that kind of stuff. So it's obviously it's a huge honor, and I want to obviously continue to play with USA as long as I can, and just take in those experiences while I can.
The Olympics in 28. That's a goal, isn't it? You've teased that a little bit. That
Yeah.
is a goal.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so obviously with the Paris Olympics coming up, softball isn't in it. So that's kind of it's a little bit of a heartbreaker to especially like the softball world, like being on like the USA team this summer. Like we all kind of talked about it, and it hurts a little bit because softball is such a growing sport, and it just makes the goal that much sweeter. We have another 4 years to prepare. That's a really long time, especially for when us women are like in the peak of our softball playing days. So that's definitely an end goal for 2028. But it's 4 years from now. It's a long time, but at the same time, like it's gonna come. It's gonna come real fast. It's gonna sneak up on us.
It is going to sneak up on you, man. I just realized like ADC Moore Stadium is like a home away from home for you. I feel like you've pitched
Mhm.
there a million times. I feel like you might know that place inside out from going back that far. Holy, how
Yep.
far is that from Land O'Lakes?
It's honestly like a 40-minute drive. It's super short drive. Like literally grew up practicing and playing on that field at least I could say at least a dozen times. So going back there for the Clearwater Invitational Tournament, that's always so much fun because it's like I started my softball career on these fields and now I get to play at the peak of my career on these fields. So it's a really full circle moment, and it's just I can't describe it. It's so amazing.
100%. It is a full circle moment for you. It's pretty
Yes.
cool. Not many could say that. So, my last question is: as you move forward now here in the Athletes Unlimited season, and then beyond, what are your plans? Not just the rest of the year in Athletes Unlimited, but beyond softball and beyond Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah, so obviously next year I'm returning to Oklahoma State to be a graduate assistant. So gonna kind of dip my toes in the coaching situation for a little bit while I finish my school. So obviously I want to stay around softball as much as I can. I've truly like grown a love for the sport like over my entire career, and just I feel like I have so much knowledge to give other women, especially whether it be at Oklahoma State or younger girls. I just want to share as much as I can, and obviously help the younger girls, whether that be making it back to the World Series and winning a national championship. So I'm super excited to return to Stillwater. Stillwater is honestly one of my favorite places ever. I call it another home. So I can't wait to get back after Athletes Unlimited, obviously, and then going year by year. So don't know what's after that, but that's my plan for this year.
Hey, that's a smart plan. Year by year, you don't have to rush into it. That's awesome. As
Yeah.
long as you're around the sport, that's what matters.
Yes, that is true. As long as my body and my mind allows, I will be around softball for as long as I can take it.
That's good to hear. I'm happy to hear that. I think a lot of people listening are happy to hear that. Lexi Kilfoyl joining us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball. Hey, thanks for taking the time. I know you're getting ready for the competition there. It's a blast. Always great to catch up with you. It's always been great watching you play, and we'll continue to do that. We'll stay in touch, but thanks for talking to us during a busy time.
Of course, thank you for having me, Eric.